Hey guys, it's Coach Gaglione here from GaglioneStrength.com. We got another strong lady on the line today. Leanna, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing well. We're doing doing good over here. Getting ready to leave for Pennsylvania coaching this weekend. But for those of the people that are watching or listening who aren't familiar with who you are, can you just introduce yourself and just tell us a little about yourself, what you got going on right now?
Sure, I would love to. First off, thank you for having me. I am very honored to be a guest on your podcast. So my name is Leanna. I am 25 years old. I currently live in Colorado. I moved here about a year ago, and I'm loving it, except for the cold weather. It's starting to get very chilly here, but I'm sure you can relate being in New York.
Sure.
I am a powerlifter in the 63 kilo weight class of the USAPL. I'm kind of strong. And I'm also a figure competitor. I am a pro in the WNBF, which is a very well-known natural federation. I graduated from the University of Georgia with a double major in biology and psychology, and I'm currently getting my master's in sports psychology. I am almost done, so very excited about that. Other than that, I am a bodybuilding.com sponsored athlete. I'm sponsored by Juggernaut Training Systems, Virus International, and I am the CEO of a coaching company. It's called Iron Woman Strength. Basically, what we do is cater towards beginning powerlifters, mainly women, hence Iron Woman. Any women who may not want to get into powerlifting but want to learn how to lift weights and incorporate strength training into their routine to feel better about themselves, gain some muscle, and just really feel empowered by strength training. I also coach physique athletes as well. So yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
Very cool. Well, we appreciate you coming on as well. So I want to rewind a little bit. And what was like the first time you actually had a barbell in your hands? What actually got you into strength training and not necessarily competing, but just like lifting weights, and how did you kind of get involved with all that?
Okay, this was, I believe, January of 2012. Yes, 2012, so about 4 years ago. It was simply a New Year's resolution. I was a sophomore at the University of Georgia, and I had gained about 25, 30 pounds. The freshman 15, except it ended up being a little bit more than that.
15 times two.
Oh yeah. Too many late nights, Taco Bell visits,
Sure.
And just enjoying college. And I remember in January, there were a couple of things that had happened, and I just started feeling pretty self-conscious about the way that I looked. I've always been, active. I was a cheerleader growing up. It was pretty much my life. And my senior year of high school, I actually ended up tearing my patella tendon and fracturing my patella, which led me to stop cheering. So just a couple years of, not being as active, I started really feeling just very having just very bad body image issues, and I just wanted to simply lose weight. So I started going to the gym. I started doing a lot of cardio. Basically tried every single diet fad that you can imagine, the cabbage soup diet, the eat a grapefruit with every single meal diet. I was not doing it very healthily. I started losing weight, but I realized that even though I was losing weight physically on the scale, my body composition was just becoming a smaller version of me. It was just kind of like a skinny fat version, and I didn't really like it. So I found a couple of people. I actually reached out to a couple of my friends who were into bodybuilding, and they were gave me a training regimen. They were like, you know what, in order to feel better about yourself and get the look that you desire, you should start lifting weights and eating protein and drinking protein shakes. So I started doing that. I was a little hesitant, like most women when they first start training. I was just super shy when it came to the gym. I was very intimidated, but I trusted them. I started lifting, and I, one, fell in love with it, and two, really started seeing results. So after that, I just went ahead and decided, you know what, I think I want to prep for a figure competition. So I kind of went from wanting to lose a little bit of weight to getting into a very extreme calorie deficit and doing a contest prep. And that was very mentally tough for me. I mean, I'm sure you can imagine just any very strenuous dieting and like phase like that. It's just, not only very demanding on your body, but it can also be very demanding mentally. So I did my first show. I did okay, and after that, I rebounded hard. It was ironic because I was in the best shape that I'd ever been in my entire life, but it was when I felt the worst about my body. I had to gain a little bit of weight after that. And I just was constantly comparing myself to how I was right then to how I was on stage, and it just wasn't very healthy. So that's kind of when I decided to start powerlifting, and that was a little bit of a rant. That's kind of how it all started.
Very cool. And so, as far as transitioning to powerlifting, what kind of made you decide that you wanted to kind of make that transition and kind of do both, and then actually not just like lift barbells in the gym, but also like compete on the platform?
It was weird because once I started powerlifting, I found out that I wasn't as focused on the way that I looked. I wasn't as focused on the number in the scale. It was a really cool feeling to be able to go into the gym and strive for more like physical athletic goals instead of just completely goals based around my aesthetics or my physique. And it was really empowering. And at the time, I think this was 2013, I didn't really know of many women who actually powerlifted. I got approached by the University of Georgia's club powerlifting team. A couple of the guys were like, hey, I see you in here. You're looking pretty strong. Why don't you come to our club practices? So that's when I started becoming more consistent with powerlifting. And I just realized like how awesome it made me feel being able to, squat 250 pounds at the time. That was like the coolest thing ever. So, it was crazy. And I remember at a time, I told people that I was going to start powerlifting. I wanted to switch my goals from competing in figure for a while, and I wanted to start powerlifting. I remember I had a coach at the time who told me, that's probably not the best idea. It's not very good. Like powerlifting and lifting heavy is not very good physique-wise. You may get a blocky waist by doing all those deadlifts and all that stuff. And then I also had a lot of women who were in the fitness industry who I looked up to. I actually remember one in particular. She was a IFBB physique pro. I told her that I wanted to start powerlifting, and I remember her telling me that, oh, no, like, don't do that. You're too pretty to powerlift. Like, those women and everyone who powerlifts, they're manly, and they're, like, just stick to what you're doing. So, when somebody tells me that, I'm the type of person I'm like, all right, just because you told me that, I'm going to prove you wrong. So, I signed up for my very first powerlifting meet actually the next day, and that's kind of when I started really focusing and doing my very first actual powerlifting block. And I did my first meet, and I fell in love with it. Since then, I've definitely been able to find a balance. I have been able to be okay with my physique in the off season, whenever I'm solely focusing on powerlifting. And I've been able to get the mental capacity to be able to diet as well for a physique show. So I do love both, but I don't think that I would have gotten to the place that I am now where I'm very happy with the way I look, regardless if I'm in prep or in the off season, and if it wasn't for powerlifting.
Cool. I never heard too pretty to powerlift. That's pretty crazy to think, but I guess when you're in it, you don't realize it, but I guess everyone has their own opinion. But what advice do you have for people that maybe they do want to have a good balance of aesthetics and performance, and they're maybe not necessarily competing in both, but like you said, that they do want to compete maybe at a high level, or they want to get stronger, but they also want to make sure that they're looking good and they're improving their physique at the same time.
So I guess I'm going to take you back to 2014, my last figure prep, where I was both, doing pretty well in powerlifting and figure. I had just placed 5th place in open at nationals. I got 2nd in juniors. I tied actually for 1st, but lost off body weight. But it was after that I decided to jump right into a figure prep. And that was probably one of the most draining years of my life. I was under the impression, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying, you can't do both at once, because there's definitely, a way to care for your physique and work towards your physique goals while also improving strength. But when it comes to, I get a lot of girls who message me and they're like, hey, I want to do what you do. I want to do a figure show. I want to be stage lean, but I also want to powerlift. And I remember in 2014, I was in prep. I had just done very well for me in a powerlifting sense. And I started a diet, about a 25-week diet, to get stage lean to step on stage. I ended up winning my pro card that year. I did everything in my power to try to continue lifting heavy. And I think that was really good for me mentally, because I think, like when people are in prep and they're dieting and they're in extreme deficit, they think that, okay, I don't have energy. I'm tired. I'm supposed to be feeling this way. So I think it kind of gives them an excuse to slack off in the gym. So for me, like having my powerlifting goals in mind while I was dieting definitely kept me accountable for my goals. But at the same time, I pushed myself too hard. I didn't really know when to back off, and I ended up getting injured that year, which is something that I'm still having and like just still suffering the repercussions of. And that's something that I tell people now, like you can absolutely, incorporate the big three into your movements if you're prepping. I think that that's actually probably the most beneficial for your physique. You're burning the most calories when you are doing the big three movements. But at the same time, know when to be able to back off and keep the goal the goal. So if, your goal right now is to cut, if it's to look good on stage, you can still powerlift and still try to make a conscious effort to get your workouts in. But at the same time, don't be discouraged and don't do anything dumb when you start losing strength, because at some point it's inevitable.
Yeah, one thing that I like to tell like my people when we're talking about goal setting or we're just doing a consultation, and they have like, well, I want to lose like 50 pounds of fat and I want to like improve my bench by like 100 pounds. It's like, you can do those things, but there's like, you can't ride two horses, you can't serve two masters. So I think it's good to like have a focus, and there's nothing wrong with like, okay, I want to focus on strength here. I want to focus on weight loss or leaning out or improving my body composition, and it's kind of going back and forth. I think a lot of people get like impatient, and they want like everything like all at once, and unfortunately, that's not like the most like ideal thing. Even with myself, I'm sure being a business owner, like there's give and take. You have to like, what's the priority for this month, or what's the priority for this kind of even year? And sometimes people like to like take a year like to just focus on one thing may sound like a long time, but if you want to be really good at something, I think it's important to like shift your focus and adjust like as needed. And there's nothing wrong with you can't you can maintain some of those other qualities, but I think having that like kind of primary focus is some really good advice. So
when you're trying to get strong, you need to eat. You need to be at a healthy body weight that you feel good at, that is about your set point, that you can kind of maintain and not worry. Like the worst thing to do is try to prep for meet while dieting. It's definitely doable, and that's what I think. That's one trend I'm sure you see a lot too. Is a lot of girls, especially, and it drives me crazy. Is they're like, all right, I want to do a meet, but I want to fit into this weight class, and there's obviously like if it's for very competitive, reasons, like you're going to win a big meet or something or a record, then I can see the merit in doing that. But at the same time, when you're a powerlifter, nobody cares what you weigh. Essentially, we care about how much you're lifting on the platform, and if you're doing something that's going to jeopardize that goal, then what's the worth?
Yeah, I think we try to like tell our guys and girls like with or without a water cut, whatever you decide to do, like try it. Like at the very least, like if you could just go into that say 8-week, 12-week cycle, like whatever you're gonna need to be for like the meet, because training for like max strength on a deficit, it's definitely not optimal to say the least. So I think that's like really really good advice. It's maybe not something that people want to hear, but that's the truth. So focus on getting to whatever weight you need to before you start the prep. and then going into the prep, because like you said, you got to fuel your body. You say like your body's like a race car. You need good fuel for the race car. You don't want to be running on fumes when you get to the meet and you have to like take your third attempt. So
I like that analogy.
Yeah, cool. So have you? I know we talked about some of your injuries and stuff, but have you ever dealt with like any adversity? And if so, like how did you kind of like overcome it? Any setbacks, adversity, or anything like that?
So I would kind of say, just going back to the injuries now, it's something that I would be lying if I say that wasn't affecting me, like right now to this day. And I'll kind of reiterate that. So yeah, I think that 2014 was a really awesome year for me. I ended up doing very well at nationals. I won my pro card. I won a couple of big shows. I got sponsored by some big companies, and it was probably a year that, like, looking back, I'm like, wow, did that even happen? It was kind of like one of those things that was like, it all happened so fast. I got a following, which I'm very thankful for. And it was something that I was like, it just seemed like a dream, right? And then after that, like 2015 was a little bit slower of a year for me. And it wasn't until this past year where I just decided that I had to take a break completely from squatting. So I actually ended up getting an MRI, and I found out that I right now have 2 partial tears in both my patella tendons, just from squatting and overuse, not knowing when to lay off the gas pedal, and not really taking care of my body and doing the proper mobility exercises that I needed to, doing proper warm-ups, stuff like that. So, and I will say that, this past year, it's discouraging. I was at nationals this year. I didn't compete. I had a couple athletes who competed, and especially for somebody who I feel, like I do have a following, and I want to continue putting out positive information and positive things that younger lifters or female lifters who are just getting started can benefit from. But when you're struggling in your own personal endeavors, when you're not able to do or work towards your own personal goals that you set for yourself because of something that isn't really in your control, especially when you feel that you have the pressure to perform at a certain level because, say, a sponsorship, or say, you're somebody that people looked up to. For me, it was really hard for me to be able to differentiate between the two and like find motivation to continue putting things out, if that makes sense. It's something that, I think that we are always our own worst critics. We're always, especially as athletes, we always want to be better and continue getting better for ourselves. And when you go through an injury, when you go through something that isn't really ideal or wasn't really planned, especially if you're like, you're surging on up, you're doing good, and then all of a sudden you kind of hit a standstill, it can be very discouraging. So that's something that I had I was probably dealing with, at the earlier part of the year, just, I don't know, feeling that I may become irrelevant, or feel that I may become, just because, powerlifting it's growing, it's huge right now, there's so many women.
There's always someone else coming on the scene.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, as far as, I do think that seeing, like, kind of maybe documenting your recovery and, like, kind of seeing what you're doing now, I think it also like shows like a more human side. Not just if anyone's doing this, like it's like, okay, well, you're not Superman, and like that's okay. Like we do have setbacks. We do have, cause sometimes Instagram can be like this highlight reel of like your life, and it's like not always like true. I one of the things I've been trying to do the past like 2 years myself is just being a little more transparent, a little bit like showing a little bit more of like because I think people can relate to that too. And I think like the fans, the people following you that are really like truly like committed, and they'll stand by you when you're doing well, and they're going to stand by you when you're like on the sideline, so to speak. So yeah, I think you're doing a great job, and I think like I said, it's one of the reasons why we're chatting today. So
thank you. Yeah, and that was one thing that I kind of had to put in perspective too. I'm only 25 years old. You look at like all the top IPF lifters in the world. I think the mean age for women is like 36, 37.
Yeah.
So if you like think about it, like we're not actually going to be good I'm not going to be good for like another 10, 12 years. And that's one thing that I'm like, okay, if I focus right now on like full recovery, instead of trying to be selfish and trying to, pretend I'm 100% better when I'm not. Or even just like focus on, my company and my business, which has really saved me in this downtime, being able to help other people reach their goals. Like, right now I'm actually about to start a figure prep in about 6 weeks, but, for powerlifting, I don't have any competitive goals for the time being until I get 100% better. But being able to help other people reach their goals, and obviously, my academic goals as well have been keeping me pretty busy. It's made me realize, like, okay, this can actually be a very productive time in my life, for other reasons that aren't necessarily because of my own, selfish or personal goals. So.
Yeah, just to kind of go back to what you said before, about like a lot of these really good powerlifters, like 35 plus. We've had some lifters like Donnie Thompson, Stan Efferding come to our gym, and they hit like their all-time world records. I think like between like 46 and like 48 years old, like around like mid to upper 40s, and it just like it takes time to build that strength, and it takes time to be really good. And I think no matter whether it be business, physique, strength, the longer you're in the game, the better chance you have to be successful. If you're like always injured all the time, or if you're on a diet that's not sustainable, if you're on a training program that's not sustainable for like, a couple of months, then it's probably not going to be good in like a couple of years. So I think that's like really good advice to hit home with. So.
And it's like you're training for a competition, and that's the only reason why you train. You should probably reevaluate your priorities. This past year, like not competing has been like some of the best training like times I've had in the gym. Not really worried about recording them, not really worried about telling other people about it, but I've been able to finally train and remember why I love training so much. I do it because of myself. I do this because I love making myself better. Sometimes, times like this are a really good time for self-reflection and just remembering why you started to begin with.
Yeah, when I started competing and like kind of coaching people like a little over 10 years ago, and we didn't have like the videos on the phone and things like that, and it's just like different, but yeah, I think it's good to like sometimes it's like okay to like just like get a workout and like you just do it for yourself, and you don't like worry about like I need to post it or like whatever, or I need to I'm just training, I'm enjoying, I'm in the moment, and I think that's like really good advice too. So I wanted to. So this is, it's kind of funny because this is probably like when I like started following you like a lot, and I don't know. Hopefully, I'm not bringing back like any bad memories, but there was like one lift. I think it was USAPL Nationals actually, and I think it got like red lighted on like a deadlift that like was kind of close, and like I think there was a lot of like little controversy. When you kind of like go into a big meet like that, and you have like something that doesn't go your way, maybe it's a call, maybe it's just you're a little high on a squat or whatever it is. What are some things that you kind of do, and it could just be like anything like that kind of goes wrong. How do you kind of like mentally what do you do mentally to kind of prepare yourself for like the next lift, or maybe you have a bad workout or a bad work day or whatever, and how do you kind of get back on it and kind of move forward from that?
Yeah, so I think I'm not sure. It might have been. Are you talking about nationals last year? Or it was
like a 300 something deadlift that like that didn't count. That was like it was. I don't know if you got called for a hitch or something like that, but
okay.
It was like, but yeah.
So that's actually happened a couple times.
It's like which time? Well, there was one in particular where I thought if I was like not again earmuffs anyone who's a USAPL judge, but I thought it was like a good lift, and I couldn't really see like if it was up or down or ramping or whatever, and it was like kind of a little controversial. But sometimes like that happens, but yeah, just like if something like me doesn't go your way that you kind of were expecting to happen. So yeah, you could talk about that specific instance or just like in general, but that was just something that kind of stuck in my mind with you, and I think some people will probably get maybe even more fired up than you were. So I think that's like also like, and I've had that happen to me too. It's like sometimes you get a white light, and sometimes you don't, and sometimes it's a good call, sometimes it's a bad call, and you kind of have to like roll with the punches. So
yeah, so the first time I would say that's ever happened to me was probably one of the most just the biggest meets of my life. It was the Arnold in 2015.
I think that might have been it, but yeah.
Okay. Yep. So yeah, I was having a very good meet. It was kind of right coming off my contest prep and right when I started having knee problems, but I was able to continue into the meet. And I ended up bombing out for that meet, actually. I missed my first...
So you bombed on the deadlift?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. Yeah, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I missed my first attempt deadlift because it actually just flew up too fast. I was just too amped for it. I think it was like a 320 opener, and it just flew up super fast. And I just had like a little bit of a bobble at the top.
Up and down.
So so I thinking that, and this is something that I definitely learned from, thinking, oh, that was really, really easy. I was encouraged, and I thought it was a good idea to go up for my second attempt.
Yeah, I never let anyone go up.
That will never happen again. But yeah, and so after that, I ended up going up. The second attempt, I locked it out, but kind of the same thing happened. There was a little bit of an up down at the top. I think it was the year that they actually introduced the Titex bars, which I think a lot of people have said like they don't really like the way how unstable they feel using them. I don't know. Yeah. But then, like, so my third attempt, I ended up pitching the third attempt. And that was honestly, like, I knew I'd done that lift multiple times. It was something that I've hit in the gym for, like, 4 or 5. And I knew that after that second attempt, or after that actually failed first attempt, I just kind of got in my head.
Yeah.
I was doubting myself. I was like, oh, crap. You know, like, the second time I missed that lift, I had even more pressure to perform on that third lift, you know, and that was only like I think my 4th powerlifting meet ever. So at that time, you know, I bombed out, and it was definitely a very emotional meet for me. And I think since then, that's happened. I've missed lifts before, but I think just like knowing, and I think that a lot of people, they're good in the gym, they're as confident as can be in the gym, but come meet day, they're not able to perform in a way that, you know, they are capable of. And that's all mental. And that's actually something that I kind of study in school right now. It's sports psychology. It's the mental aspect of strength training. And since then, there have been a couple things that I've done to improve my confidence as a lifter. One, I practice it. You know, just like I make nutrition a priority, I make strength training a priority. I also make mental training for me as a lifter a priority. I do, you know, visualization techniques before I go into the gym. I know if I have a heavy squat day, I'm going to envision that heavy squat day. There's, you know, just like if you close your eyes and you just imagine how the squat feels, executing the squat exactly how you want it to be. It's proven that doing stuff like that will make you a more confident lifter, and it can also make, you know, help with your technique as well. So I think that's one thing I practice in just in the gym daily. And I think that, you know, now that I'm just a little bit smarter about my training, I make sure that I try not to ever miss reps in the gym. I make sure that, you know, like going into my training days, like I'm very confident with my technique now. Before I wasn't. So it was kind of like, all right, this deadlift, I don't know how it's going to go. I don't really have my technique down. I don't really like have like a set just ritual to do beforehand. I'm just kind of going to yank it. Of course, you know, things that can happen that aren't expected. So I think really just like focusing on your confidence as a lifter and treating game day, treating meet day like it's just any other day in the gym. And I know it's like way easier to say that than to actually think that on meet day, because you're just so amped, you're so fired up. And there are just like so many other things that can go into play. But I think, just taking it one lift at a time. So this past nationals, not this past nationals, the last one I did, which was 2015, I ended up missing my second attempt deadlift and coming back and hitting it, like actually going up on my third, because nice. I knew that I had it in me. So I went up on my third and I got it. And that was something that took a lot of time to practice getting better at, just being confident in myself as a lifter, and just really just making sure my technique was down and just like not having any other doubts, treating each lift like its own separate lift. So what? I missed my second attempt deadlift. That's out of my brain. I'm not going to think about it anymore. I have a task to do, and that's to get my third attempt. And that's something that if you don't practice it every day, if you don't practice it every time you're in the gym, you know, making the mental aspect of training just as much of a priority, then you can't really expect that to be there on game day.
Yeah, I think that's a really awesome story. And actually, oddly enough, we just actually had a sports psychologist come to our gym, and someone I worked with, because that's like one thing I'm interested in learning more about. And one of our girls like went to the seminar too, and same kind of thing happened. She didn't miss it, but so she's a knee wrap lifter, and she was looking to qualify for the XPC finals at the Arnold for the monolift knee wrap meet, and her second attempt deadlift was like tough, and she needed to like go up to like make it. I'm like, I'm like Taylor. I'm like Taylor. I'm like, doesn't matter. I'm like, you've done this weight before. I'm like, this is the one you need. It's like execute, and like it took like a while, but she like grinded it out. She stood up with it, and then she got 3 whites, and it was like she started crying. It was like really cool, but and it was just it's just that's rare to see, but it's just like anything else. I think what you hit the nail on the head. The mental strength is a skill, and it is something you can get better with, and that comes with experience too. So yeah, practicing that visualization and practicing like just positive affirmation, positive self-talk. Because like one thing I like always drives me nuts is like when people like hashtag like poverty bench and things. It's like, yeah, it's like if you always say you suck, like you're gonna suck. Like you know what I mean? It's like it's just not like a good. It's just like, or I'm just not good at that. It's like well no, like you work on it and you get better. And it's like yeah, sure, like everyone has like their strengths and weaknesses, but if you go in with a positive mindset, you're always going to be like more successful. So I think that's really good.
Exactly, and like you said, the poverty bench. Like, who is that comparing to? It could. Yeah, and I'm guilty of doing that as well. Like seeing some top lifters in 63, I'm like, dang, like I can't even touch some of these.
Like Jen Thompson. It's like
okay, everyone has a poverty bench.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But yeah, it's just like one of those things that I think a lot of people they talk negatively about themselves, but it's only because they're comparing themselves to other people. Because realistically, they're probably the strongest that they've ever been in their lives. They're probably, having the best training days they've ever had in their life. But when they get on Instagram, when they get on social media, and they see somebody else who did their top set for reps, it can be discouraging. It's like, wow, like I still have so much longer to go. And like that's a good thing about lifting, in my opinion. You're never going to be the strongest. There's always going to be someone stronger than you. So to me, that used to discourage me. That used to be like, dang, like I want to be at the top right now. I want to be just as strong as Jen right now. But if you kind of flip the way you think about it and say, okay, maybe I'm not at the top right now, but I have that much more room to improve so long as I stay healthy, so long as I have a positive outlook, and I keep doing this and I don't burn myself out because I'm comparing myself so much. It's just like, all right, I have this much room to get better. I'm not even near the best I can be. And that's kind of exciting in a way, like, shoot, if I keep going, I'm going to be so freaking strong in 10 years, But I think that, it's just kind of about switching the way that you think about it and having it, motivate you, but not, being a way to put yourself down or discouraging you.
I couldn't say it better myself. I think there's some really, really good nuggets and advice. So really excited to have you. Thanks again for coming on. We're going to close out the recording in a little bit, but you can definitely stay on because I want to thank you personally after we're done. For those people that are watching, they want to follow more about you. Where can they find you? Website, Instagram. Where can they check you out?
All right. My website is ironwomanstrength.com, and that you can contact me for coaching. We do group coaching, and we're actually renovating the website right now. But hoping to put more content out there. And my Instagram is Leanna_Carr. I am about to, and I keep saying this, and I need somebody to get on me, but I am actually going to be more proactive about putting content out on YouTube. Something that it's probably just been one of my biggest weaknesses. It's just I am such a nerd. When I get a camera in my face, I just don't know what to say. I'm very nervous in front of cameras, but I know that is something that you get better with practice and with time. And I do have hopefully some valuable things that I think a lot of men could benefit from. So I do want to do my best in putting that out there. So I will be documenting, like I said, I'm doing starting a prep in about 6 weeks, and I definitely want to be very transparent with the whole process of that. Kind of going back to what we talked about earlier, just keeping strength goals in mind while prepping, and I kind of want to, just go through the entire process, document all of that, and like how to do that, and when it's time to, be real with yourself. So, yeah, I'm super excited about that. And my Facebook is Leanna Carr. So, yeah.
Easy enough. So definitely give Leanna a follow. Drop her a comment below. Show her some love. Thank you so much for coming on. If this interview helped you, please share it. Please give the podcast a 5-star review. Helps other people find us. And we're just trying to help other women get strong and sharing that message of strength. So thank you guys for listening and for watching, and we'll see you next time.